Hello everyone, welcome to Analog IAS current affair analysis for 5th March 2021. In this video, we'll be discussing this couple of issues. Clearing a low bar. This is with respect to the 6th round of spectrum auction for radio waves, which is very important for our internet and the future of our Digital India campaign. So let us examine the crux of this issue, but before that, let me explain the brief background of this entire issue. With the rise in use of equipments, especially that of digital technology in the form of um, cell phones or other wireless telephones, they require signals to connect from one end to another. So radio waves are the medium for propagating the cell phone signals. But the problem is these signals are meant to be carried on designated frequencies to avoid any kind of interference. Now, what is the problem if there is interference? Interference may prevent reception altogether. Sometimes it may also cause a temporary loss of a signal or may even affect the quality of the sound or picture produced on one's equipment. So, in order to ensure high quality, so lack of interference is a sign of good quality, and for this we need to have a good frequency allocation for our cell phone signals. The union government owns all the publicly available assets within the geographical boundaries of the country, and this also includes airwaves. Therefore, the government, that is the central government, has the sole authority to allocate this airwave space, or what it is known as spectrum, to different telecom companies. Now, this is very important for the future of our country because we are talking about the advent of 5G, the next level of digital technology, or the medium through which all sorts of technologies in the future will evolve and create what is known as the Industrial Revolution 4.0, and the groundwork for that will be done when we have a well connected 5G system. But there are certain caveats here. Now let us understand the caveats in the article. Now we have seen that airwaves are a sort of an asset to companies, and at the same time even the government is looking at it as an asset to raise revenue in this time of pandemic. So the long awaited spectrum auction is being held after a gap of 4 years. Now this 4 years has drastically changed the telecom sector in our country with the advent of Jio. So the Telecom Regulatory Authority, which is responsible for carrying out this auction and calculating the recommended reserve price for the radio waves, has taken 2 years to come up with this evaluation. In this entire scheme of things, the thing that we have to remember here is the central government, through the Department of Telecom, that is DOT, auctions this airwaves from time to time, but not TRAI. TRAI just comes up with a recommendation. So these airwaves are subdivided into what we know today as bands. Now these bands are designated based on the frequency, which is very important for our quality. So what is being auctioned right now is the exclusive ownership for space within these bands. So these bands have certain validity period, and after that validity lapses, then again it is re-auctioned. Generally, the frequency band that will be auctioned will be for 20 years. So what is the revenue sharing model that we have to look at in this present case? So as per the model laid down by TRAI, the successful bidder will have to pay 3% of the adjusted gross revenue as the usage charge, and this will go towards the government. So this is a sort of a revenue towards the government. Now AGR is divided into spectrum usage charges and licensing fees, and this together ranges somewhere between 3 to 5%, and again the license fee will be 8%. So usage charges will be 3 to 5% and license fee would be 8% of the adjusted gross revenue respectively. It is the usage and license fee that telecom operators are charged by the Department of Telecommunication, which actually carries out the auction. So who are the potential buyers? Apart from the existing telecom players, new companies including foreign companies are eligible. But in the end, Reliance Jio has acquired the majority of what is being auctioned right now. But there are certain problems. But the problem here that we have discussed is there is one spectrum which is supposed to be a very significantly efficient one, that is the 700 megahertz frequency band. But this band was not taken up by any bidder because it was considered to be a bit on the expensive side. The problem is with the calculation of the devotee or the recommendations of TRAI in valuating this spectrum. 2016 is a time when the OTT platforms like WhatsApp or etc. Did not actually take over the calling and other costs, which are very significant at that point of time before Jio came into the picture. So, talk time was a significant aspect of that era. But with free internet penetration and the advent of Jio, the entire telecom industry has undergone a significant paradigm shift. Now we don't actually care about the talk time given to a particular individual. We are only talking about internet data. Basically, the calling charges have been completely done away with the inter usage charges also going away. What is the inter usage charge? Suppose, for example, if an Airtel customer is calling someone with a Jio number, Airtel was supposed to pay certain amount to Jio and vice versa if Jio customer is calling to Airtel. Recent update from TRAI has indicated that this usage charges will be done away with. Now this means that effectively the calling charges have been taken away, and the only charge that any telecom operator would make in the future, or any revenue that he would be generating, would be through the usage of internet data. Now internet data has to become affordable. The cost of this 700 megahertz, which is supposed to be a very efficient one, is so high that it would be commercially unviable to even market leaders. That is the reason this band has been left unsold. But TRAI has been very adamant about not changing the prices for this particular segment. Given the fact that the Digital India campaign is a very significant one for the future of our economy, because we're talking about an industrial revolution 4.0 where internet of things etc are going to become a norm rather than a special event. Now let me explain with an example. What do you mean by a unicorn startup? Unicorn startup is one that has a valuation of greater than 1 billion US dollars. There are quite a few unicorn startups in our country at the present moment, and these startups significantly rely upon the Digital India penetration, that is internet. They are just relying upon internet for the survival. Now what are those kind of startups? Imagine what would be the life of a Ola driver, a Uber driver, Zomato, all these services which depend upon these app based gig economy workers as well as the companies. What will they do without internet penetration in our country? So the government is just looking at this 700 megahertz band as a source of revenue. But if it were to actually encourage this Digital India campaign, this spectrum, if it is available cheaply, it will have a multiplier effect. The internet penetration will be much more faster even in villages. And apart from these startups, even other kind of penetration can happen. For example, Amazon may not be able to deliver to remote locations, or similarly Flipkart might not be able to develop warehouses in those locations because the scale required for maintaining a warehouse in that location is just not there. But with the advent of internet, even these companies will get what they want, that is scale. Unless and until this model is scalable, they just don't find it viable to deliver goods in that area. These are all examples to show how Digital India can be a force multiplier. What do you mean by force multiplier? Generally, whenever there is any technology which has a spiraling effect on the economy, those kind of technologies or those kind of factors which can augment the status of our economy are called force multipliers, and internet is one such force multiplier. Therefore, it is all the more important for the government to recognize this, and should definitely reconsider the pricing model of this based on latest ground realities. That is what this article is trying to say, and that is what we have to remember. The fact that Digital India campaign is going to be significant for our future economy. That is the gist of this article. Haryana quota, the fine print. This is about the latest reservation law in private sector that was brought out by Haryana. Before getting into the details of this article, let me give a brief context about how inequality will manifest into the kind of laws that we are seeing in the present article. For this, you have to appreciate the structure of a society, which is a characteristic feature of any global society or any modern society. Take a look at this pyramid. At the bottom is where we have a significant amount of workers, say 70% of the workers reside in this range. They are at the bottommost rung of the ladder. And then we have 20% middle class, or even 25% middle class, and the top 5% are the rich. If you equate this with any company as well, the CEO makes a significantly high amount of money, the middle level management makes decently good enough money, and the bottom 70% make relatively lower amounts of money. After the 1991 new economic policy characterized by LPG reforms, as far as MNCs are concerned, even this bottom rung of the ladder, even they saw a significant rise in their income levels. But if you have to compare that with other sectors of economy, say agricultural sector or manufacturing sector, we cannot say the same thing in those sectors. The status of farmer has deteriorated because he was forced to sell his land in certain areas, and the manufacturing sector did not grow fast enough. As a result, what happened is the fight for jobs or non-farm jobs has significantly increased. Population kept on rising. There were not many non-farm jobs that were proportionately growing, and as a result, the governments were put under consistent pressure to create jobs, and without the ease of doing business, this will not happen. So, as an alternative to appease the voters, many state governments have been trying to come up with laws like this one. So, private sector as such means meritocracy. There is no room for representation because private sector is not driven by a welfare agenda but a profit agenda. The fittest survive in those particular setup. But the problem with reserving 75% of the private sector jobs is the fact that there is no innovation in the kind of policies that are being brought out by the governments, especially the state governments, with respect to the creation of jobs. So this kind of protectionist agenda will inherently affect the economy. This is what many economists believe. So in this particular case, the Haryana government has tried to pass a law, or the state government has tried to pass a law saying that those who have a salary up to 50k, they should be from Haryana. That is, up to 75% of the people who have a salary up to 50k should be from Haryana alone. There are many experts who are citing that Article 16 Clause 4, which is relevant only for public employment, cannot be used in this particular case, and it is unconstitutional. Article 16 Clause 4 says that the state government can ensure that a certain segment of the population can get a reservation with respect to public employment if it feels that it is underrepresented. Note the word public employment. Nowhere in the constitution was it talking about private employment. Now, how is this law constitutional is the debate that is raised in a lot of policy circles right now. Now, there is a significant development in this entire debate. So, one has to consider the role of state in this aspect. What is a state supposed to do? When I mean the state, it is as per the definition laid down in the Constitution under Article 12. So, state here means an entity which is meant to take up the responsibilities of governance. So, in this particular case, we are talking about the Haryana state government. Haryana state government was supposed to ensure all the conditions that are required for job creation. Now, by forcing this reservation policy on the private sector, is it not something that the Haryana government is supposed to do? Instead of taking the difficult job to create the social capital that can attract the private sector, it is forcing the private sector reservation on the companies, which might not be conducive for their entire operations. There are certain arguments that subsidized land rates are given to the private sector, and in return they were supposed to give out certain benefits to the state government as well. But one has to remember that the companies are indeed paying a significant amount of tax that was hitherto not available with the state government. So this tax revenue should also be considered whenever such kind of arguments are made. If ever that tax has been considered to be a non-starter, or it is considered to be less, and if you want a certain clause wherein the locals get enough number of jobs, such kind of laws should have been placed in the agreement way before the activities have began from that place. Now, after the operations have started, mandating this kind of a law will be a serious roadblock in corporate governance. So, this is going to be a very interesting debate, and we have to look at how courts will deal with this issue. Similarly, if we have to ask about international experiences, we do have such kind of laws for Aboriginals in Canada. The article talks about Employment Equity Act in Canada, and there are certain laws even in the United States which mandate the protection to certain segment of employees based on their race and gender. So we have to look forward to see how court will deal with this particular issue. So that is the gist of this article. And just to add some other points which are taken from other newspapers, India INC, as the Indian corporate sector is generally called, they feel that this kind of laws are going to be a huge problem for operations between various sectors in the economy. So last year we have had the Andhra Pradesh government trying to come up with certain law. Even the Madhya Pradesh government has called for coming up with a law that reserves certain amount of jobs to the locals. All this sort of laws will actually hamper the job growth in this country. Rather, what this governments must be doing is to ensure that they invest enough on social capital, on the skills, make certain MOUs with various MNCs across the world, and make the employability of the people a very convincing factor for companies to directly come and invest in the state. Rather than that, if the state governments take such populist measures, it will hurt them in the longer run. That is the gist of this article.